going to open this meeting of the North Bennington Prudential Committee for October 11th, 2023. I'm at central office and everyone else on the board is zooming in, and we have a few guests from public. We have first on the agenda is public comments. I think I know at least what Alicia wants to talk about, and I would allow her to talk at the time we talk about that policy. And I don't know, who's the other person, Jess? Who's over in the corner?
I'm here for the same reason.
Yep, okay. So as long as it's acceptable to the rest of the board, I'm going to allow them to comment when we get to the dress code policy. Okay. Is that all right? Matt? Caroline?
Yep.
Yep, okay. So we're going to move to finance, and Uji could talk about the treasurer's report.
Hopefully you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Had some technical difficulties there. Okay, so treasurer's report. We received our state aid in the month of September, a little over 600,000. So that will carry us through typically until the taxes transfer, which is typically done in December. We do still have money available on the tax line anticipation if needed. We only had to draw on that once so far. But I don't anticipate that we're going to need to, just depending on how the tuition billing comes in. Other than that, there's not a lot to report. Tax collection is well underway. I'll give the same little spiel that I gave at the village meeting last night. In-person hours for tax payment will start next week. Taxes are due November the 10th. On the tax bill is the phone number for me as the treasurer. So if you need to schedule time outside of the hours that are going to be in person, just give me a call or reach out via email, treasurer@villagenorthbennington.org. And the hours are posted at the depot and on the website. Like I said, other than that, there wasn't a lot in the month of September. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I would just make a comment because the tuition bills for the students going to Southwest Vermont Union Elementary School District and Arlington have not been produced as yet. We will be paying those in a 1/3 installment next month, I suppose. And also the supervisory union assessments bill, first billing has not been produced, so we haven't paid that yet. And that will have to be next month. Hopefully we will have started collecting substantial amounts of tax dollars that we can help with paying those bills.
Yep. What has done, we didn't have to do this last year, but what has been done in prior years, Ray, from my understanding from Mary, was if a portion needed to be transferred from the village as, early payment, so to speak, then that can be done based on the pro rata collection portion. So that is an option because we are well underway. Taxes are flowing in pretty much every day. So we can chat about that next month if we need to, but as of right now, we're in great shape.
Okay. All right. I'm going to skip over the agenda. Skip over the budget status and go right to the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of minutes for September 13th meeting of this board and the warrants which were included. I have to point out about the warrants, an item. Sorry, I'm looking up the warrant on my stack of items on my computer. Okay, so the warrant has bills for Lori Elwell for paying for her minutes from the board meeting in September, and then some payments for tuitions, two to Maple Street School and one tuition for a slightly later entering student at Southshire. Unfortunately, and then the tuition bill for the village school, North Bennington. Unfortunately, since the retirement of Jim Kosis, there's a person who's learning the system to deal with North Bennington, and she didn't exactly follow our policy for payment, which would be that we would pay a quarter of this bill for those three tuitions. And so I think what we're going to have to do is approve. I think we're going to have to disaggregate the consent agenda. We'll approve the minutes, and then we'll approve the warrant except for those three tuition items so that they can be correctly allocated. And I guess I will probably go in and sign for them later on once that's been done. So with respect to the minutes, we had this discussion about the tax rate last month, and the tax rate for the village was misstated, not through any fault of the treasurer. It was just, that's the way it happened. So we almost corrected that in the meeting. We figured out what the problem was, but we didn't get the number into the minutes. So I would like to note that there is that change from a rate of 1.996, was it? The actual rate is 1.609. So and that I'd like to amend the minutes with that note. Okay, that's what I would like, or at least have it stated here. Is everyone okay with that amendment to the minutes? Okay.
Yes.
So let's then have a motion to approve the minutes with the amendment.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then we'll move to the back to the warrant. So what we would do is approve the warrant that's listed as AP 101-123 for fiscal year 24, minus the items for check numbers 15205 for Maple Street Foundation, 15, well, that's actually one check for two tuitions, isn't it?
Correct. Yep. The
And
Maple
15
Street is one check.
15206 for South Shore Community School to be recalculated and resubmitted to the board for approval and payment.
Correct. I had emailed with Jim prior to the meeting, and I typically would sign checks today, but I'm going tomorrow. So the only two checks that will be signed and distributed tomorrow is the Village School and Lori.
Yes, correct. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to, and a second to approve this warrant.
So moved.
I'll give you the second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's the consent agenda taken care of. And go back to the next item on the agenda is policies. And it's structured, we have 5 different policies to deal with. 2 are warnings and 3 are adoptions. So I would like to get the adoptions out of the way. We'll just do those and then we'll go back to the warnings. The policies to adopt are 2401, access control and visitor management, which is listed as an AOE required policy. So it says as a statement of principle here that all the various school districts of the SU to provide a safe environment for students and employees while facilitating access to school buildings, premises, and equipment by authorized user. It's the policy of those districts. Okay. That's the policy of the district, to provide a safe environment for students and employees, and while facilitating access. The safety and security of the district's physical space and assets is shared responsibility, all members of the district. And I don't know exactly what was changed in this. Usually that's kind of highlighted, if there are changes.
Yeah, these are new policies that were enacted.
They're just totally
part of
new.
the legislature's
Yeah,
last session.
Okay, so this is a brand new policy that we're required to have. And I assume this language actually, most of it comes from the AOE.
It comes directly from.
Yeah.
Is this
So,
2401?
2401, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's for adoption. I'd make the motion to adopt.
Okay.
I'll
Need a
second.
second. Okay. I don't think there's any reason to discuss it because it's been vetted at the state level for us. So all in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. And then the next policy that is to be adopted is fire and emergency preparedness drills. Again, this is a new policy from same situation.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And the third policy is transportation. Is this also an AOE?
Yes.
Okay. And this policy,
It's our policy, but it's, I mean, this is not a brand new one like the first two, but it is a required policy.
right? And were there changes to this at all?
I am not aware of that.
Okay. You sit in on those meetings, right?
Not all.
Not all, yeah. A lot of- Okay, so this is also required. So policy 3100 for transportation. I'll
So
make a
moved.
motion to adopt it.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so now we get to two policies that are to be warned. I'll take the second one first, which is 5084, personal use of wireless communication. This is being warned. It won't be adopted until we've warned it, and if there are further considerations to suggest changes to the policy committee, we would make them, or districts would make them.
I wasn't present for
Yes.
this, and I know that the policy committee struggled with to remove references to specific devices that, you know,
yeah.
may no longer be valid as the policy ages, so.
Yeah. So the main change is highlighted in yellow here. The definition of wireless communication, which is just as Jim was speaking about. Wireless communications is a type of data communications performed and delivered wirelessly. It's a broad term, incorporates all procedures and forms of connecting and communicating between two or more devices using a wireless signal through wireless communication technologies and devices. That definition comes from a source called Techopedia, excuse me. And it's intended to get away from the specificity that would allow certain devices that come along that are technologically different from the ones that were in place when the policy was originally written and adopted to be covered by the policy. And that's basically all it does. It strikes out a strike all sort of amendment to the lower part of the policy, which was the previous policy and had specific references. And now it's just this general statement. These are things that the district in the preamble says this, that student may possess wireless communication devices in schools, on school property, at after school activities and at school related functions, provided that during instructional time as defined in each school handbook, so it differentiates by building and circumstance of grade level, the wireless communication device remains off and concealed unless otherwise instructed by a teacher. The districts therefore prohibit the personal use of wireless communication devices during personal use is the underlined there because it doesn't refer to the use by an individual at the instruction of the teacher, obviously, during instructional time. So I'll move that we warn it.
I'll second that.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. The second and final policy that is to be warned is the policy 5080, which is titled dress code. And the preamble states that all the districts of the SU their policy to enforce a dress code to create and maintain a productive and positive learning environment, minimizing disruptions and distractions. And then there is a paragraph of text, which is the new policy, and what was existing as the old policy is all struck and no longer applicable. So I'll read that paragraph and then I'll ask for comments from our visitors. The SVSU is committed to creating a positive learning environment for all students. The purpose of the SVSU dress code is to promote a body positive environment while respecting the freedom for students to express their individuality. All students should expect a safe learning environment, to feel welcome by upholding standards that foster a secure and equitable community. The purpose of the SVSU dress code is not marginalization or oppression of any group based on race, sex, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, ethnicity, religion, cultural observance, household income, or body type or size. The SVSU dress code is designed with a focus on teaching and learning. And now I'll look for comments from board members or from members of our public here.
I had a question. So it says, so it looks like the administrative regulations policy is not struck out. Is that correct? So the page, the third and fourth page of policy 5080 will still be like left in.
I think the administrative regs are to be restructured.
They're going to be restructured. So that's not what we're talking about today.
No, we're not talking about
The
administrative.
regs will be rewritten once the policy goes through all warning and approval process. So in case anything changes in the policy before it actually gets adopted, then the regulations get written and they do go back to the policy committee.
Right. And at that point, in the policy committee, the administrative regs don't necessarily go before the boards to be approved.
No, they don't. They're not approved, but they do go back to the policy committee for review.
And
They go back to what for review?
The policy committee,
Okay.
which
Who's
meets
in the,
typically meets the first Tuesday of every month, but it doesn't always get held every month. The next one is November 6th at 4:30.
okay.
But at that point, you would not have administrative regs for
We
this.
wouldn't have administrative regs on this because if I look at the tally sheet, this has only been warned by one other board, so
Right.
it won't even be out for adoption until at the earliest November meetings. And then
Okay.
it would go policy after all boards have warned and adopted, it would go back, then administrative regs go. So I would think administrative regs would not be ready before the first of the year.
Right.
Okay. And once that gets edited, it will go back out to be warned and then
No, it
approved.
won't go back out to the boards.
It just becomes.
So I
just
guess my
becomes
main
administrative
concern
regs.
are these, because you got, they struck out almost all of the other dress code. So, but it says in the dress code, it says elementary school district, see attached administrative regulations. So I guess my understanding was that the administrative regulations were the only ones that are really being spelled out, and those are the ones for the elementary schools.
Right, so the current policy is still in force until this gets changed, which means the current administrative regs are still in force until this gets changed. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm answering that for you, but,
Well,
so whatever's in force now is there. I think the intent of the policy committee, I don't want to speak for everyone in the committee, was to simplify the policy, and the instruction that we're receiving from our legal counsel is the policy should be more succinct, and then the admin regs actually fill out what you would think. The policy is a more general statement, and then the admin regs actually give the specifics of
So I guess my main question is, who do I talk to and complain to about these administrative regulations? Because
the policy.
the policy committee?
yep.
Okay.
And,
Yeah, that's the best place probably to come and be heard.
yep. And so I think that,
There's supposed to be a representative from every board
yeah,
who comes to the policy committee. I mean, each board appoints representatives to the policy committee. And
Okay,
they will, even though we call it administrative regs and they're written by administrators, because actually with the policies are actually written by administrators too and presented to the board. They're not actually doing the drafting. And not that we draft the policies usually come from the Vermont School Board Association's model policy and then vetted by our attorney. And so then we would draft the policy. The policy board approves the policy. It goes out to be warned by every board in the first step. And then once every board, then it goes out the second time to be adopted by every board. Then we would draft any administrative regs for that policy, and we bring them back for review by the board. But the administrative regs themselves do not go back out to the boards for approval. But there's input from everybody on the administrative reg. It's not drafted by administrators without, in a vacuum. It's,
Okay.
Right. And
I mean, I'm
so-
sure they probably haven't been updated in a while, which is why everyone's
Correct.
trying to update the dress code. So I thought this administrative regulations policy was like the one that was about to be warned and go out. And I was like, oh no, this has got
No.
some issues.
It's just like the policy before, we were talking about the electronic device one, how that came up for review because policies come to the policy committee different ways. The state legislature votes on something and says, here's a policy you have to have. There was a couple of those tonight. The Vermont School Board Association in their model policy book has recommended like every board should have this policy, so they come that way. And then we also get feedback from our principals. So the electronic device one came up because of some of our principals were struggling with the outdated language that was in that policy. So there's always a rotation of policies that are coming up for review. And it is a tedious process, especially with how many boards we have to get warning and adoption all the way through. But those policy meetings are warned as a public meeting and the public is allowed to attend.
So
Cool.
let me ask you a question, because you've been sitting on this, or sitting in sometimes at least. So you have elementary schools and you have middle and high school, and they're likely to have different policies, different administrative.
Different
regs.
administrative regs by grade level would not be an unusual occurrence.
Right. And with respect to Arlington, say, versus Arlington Fisher Elementary versus the SDU ESD, is it possible their regulations, their administrative regs will be different in some respects?
So I don't imagine this one would be, but something like where I usually see differences from Arlington, for those who don't know, is part of this SU. So they adopt our policies also, even though they're a different school board, different school district. But so isn't the Union Elementary is a different district and MAU is a different district. So transportation is one that sometimes can be different. Attendance zones, things like that could be different in a policy. But I won't say it's not going to happen, but I would think that particularly on something like dress code, it will, whatever the administrative regs are, they'll be written and used uniformly throughout all the districts. But
Monument, Shasberry, and Bennell, and Woodford all have, and
Molly Starr,
Powell,
Pommel.
all have the same
Yeah.
dress code. You wouldn't have differentiation, you think?
I
There might be
I
some,
can't imagine,
small level,
but
I don't
yeah,
know.
I can't imagine, but I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna comment on something that hasn't been written yet.
We don't know yet.
Yeah.
Alicia, can you share with us the specific concerns you might have? I mean, I
Yeah,
understand.
definitely. Yeah. So, well, my first concern was just that, dress codes specifically not targeting things besides violence and safety for students tend to be like innately sexist, and they have like frequent wording that uses things like distracting other students, and like in layman's terms, people are talking about girls' bodies distracting boys' bodies. Like when parents are talking about that, that's what they're saying, and that's like kind of the common knowledge that that's what dress codes are talking about when they're talking about distracting one student from another. And dress codes tend to reinforce rape culture as well, which is like super dangerous for women and girls in our country. Teaching men and boys that women and girls are responsible for their actions and emotions instead of himself is not a good beginning to their environment and the environment of the other women in their community. instead of that, a dress code, someone noticing a distraction and the little boy is being distracted, that's a great teaching moment for young men, and supporting those students through the task of controlling their emotions and actions and empowering to them, and reinforcing to boys and men that they are responsible for their actions and emotions is a powerful gift to both genders. Forcing young women to attempt to control young men's emotions and actions is an unfair burden on them. Each person must be allowed to be in control of their own bodies and emotions for basic equity to take place. So when I wrote that out, I'm thinking like both genders deserve to be treated equally and fairly, and by kind of forcing those younger women to be in charge of the younger men's emotions is just fully unfair. So I wrote up the basic principles section. I'd really like to see the breasts part removed, because that is not gender neutral, and that would surely cause confusion regarding cleavage amounts. Nipples being covered is enough language to make the point needed, and all genders have nipples, so we don't have to worry about gender bias with that kind of wording. I think a lot of wording may be because SVSU is using the same dress code for the staff that they're using for the children, but that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Alicia, that's
Yes?
getting well beyond what we're dealing with in this warning. Yeah, I think it's
Right.
useful, and I think what you should do is you should,
Alicia, can I ask what school your child attends and hasn't been any issues?
Yeah, so my child hasn't had issues. I was hearing, so I'm part of something called the Vermont Motherhood Collaborative, and I was hearing other parents.
So do you have any children in SU school right now?
I don't, and one of the reasons is the dress code. But she will be eventually going to SVSU for junior high and high school. But my understanding is that those are different dress codes as well.
I just didn't know
I
if you're
don't-
speaking as a parent tonight that's here of the SU.
I
she
am
is
a parent of
a child
an
in our
8-year-old
district.
girl.
In your
who
district,
goes to-
okay. I just, because if there's an issue at one of my schools, I would like to hear about it, but.
Right.
The
Yeah.
other parent that is here with me is one of those parents, and she was one of the
So
only
this
ones
would,
that was
again, wouldn't
brave
be
enough.
the forum to do it. What I'd say is like, reach out to me or come out to the policy committee. When, like, this will not even be on the November meetings, policy committee agenda.
The time to talk about it would be when the policy committee receives administrative regulations from the particular schools you're concerned, the elementary schools, I suppose, in this case.
And
then you
Yeah.
should be there at that meeting to
And
talk
two
about it.
things have changed since those policy regulations were written. One, we have our attorney present at every policy committee meeting. That's not something that happened before.
Okay.
With an eye for what's up. And the SVSU equity coordinator also attends policy, a position that didn't exist as recently as 3 years ago. So any policy like that goes to them as well as the policy committee for their input to assure, I share many of the same concerns that you're bringing, but it's, the people you're saying it to right now is not the people, I mean, they need to hear it, but not the people that are going to influence what
Right.
you want to influence.
So,
Yeah, I initially reached out to Ray because I had his name when he had my kiddo and was getting my information for my kiddo to go to another school. And
Right.
so I had his information, and I saw that he was part of the board. So I reached out to him and asked him, like, how can I get my voice heard? And he mentioned that you guys would be the most receptive board and that I should come and
Yeah, we
chat with you.
listen to
I don't know.
Fine
I
here.
think all the boards would be pretty receptive.
well,
That's
I
good to
think,
hear.
May I interject?
excuse me, just a
Um,
minute. So I think the question tonight is whether you have any problems with this language that I read out. And
Well, my preference would be that a dress code was eradicated because I think that they are not great. But if that's not a possibility, if it's something that's mandated by SVSU or that the schools think is a dire need, that I understand. I think that this is good wording. And I really like that it was that all of the like very specific things were crossed out, because one of the things I noticed was that it really needs to be simplified, and like the language is just too much.
That was the intent.
Yeah.
I think we're on the same page there, but I think Jess, Alexon would like to say something and I want to hear her.
Yeah, I guess my question as a parent of a child in SVSU who has had issues with the dress code, where do I head next? I know we've discussed this without the fear of retaliation. My child goes to an extremely small school, and whenever I bring up an issue, there's always backlash. And it's been this way for a year. And I've given up voicing my opinion because it's a small school and I don't want my kids singled out. So I'm not sure how to
I would
move forward.
suggest you reach out to the SVSU Equity Coordinator, Michael Taylor, if you have a specific complaint, or myself, either one.
Okay, thank you.
But I'll say it again slower. Michael Taylor, he is the SVSU Equity Coordinator. You could send him an email, or you can send it to me and I'll send it to him, whatever it is that you think I need to hear.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I found that I don't think that Jess is the only parent that is having concerns about retaliation by their teachers and schools. And it might not be something that's always warranted, but I think in some cases it is, like in Jess's case. So it's nice. I didn't even know there was an equity coordinator, so that's fantastic.
Yeah, but like Jim says, you could reach out to that.
Yeah, thank
Mr.
you.
Taylor.
Yep, Michael Taylor.
Michael Taylor.
I feel like we're,
Talk to them.
are we not getting the cart before the horse where we have to warn a policy before there is clarity in the referenced documents as
So
to,
there will be no reference documents or, regulations unless it's warned and adopted. So we'll always follow that practice that you warn it, which doesn't mean it can't change it. Remember, that warns it, that just gets it to move it back to adoption. So there's more, then be further discussion. So I would recommend that you warn it to keep the process moving, or whatever admin regs are going to get written will be even further delayed, and we will be still using the ones we currently have.
Yeah, well, it's possible that this particular policy may need a little more back and forth on the administrative regs, but we do need a policy to start that. I agree with you. So, I think that's clear what you need to do, Alicia and Jess, and you have a person to turn to, and you also can participate in that process once these administrative regs get brought to the policy committee. But right now, I think it's our job to warn this policy. So I'll move that we warn it. I need a second. May I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further comment, Matt?
no, I hope that Alicia and Jess are comfortable in understanding that process. That's all I want to, because I now have clarity in myself that we have to, I think I would be voting in favor of this, but I'm uncomfortable with the fact that it doesn't come back to us after that.
Yeah.
Am I clear?
There's one place to express that, and that's at the policy committee.
Okay.
So, at any rate, we have to get there, and we get there by getting this warning done.
I just would like to say it's encouraging to see at least what they've started to do. So it does.
I agree, on a lot of the policies, that it's just, this is an example of a policy that was so descriptive or I should say prescriptive, right?
Prescriptive.
Of what,
yes.
of what,
Not
you do this and this is what happens. So,
Yeah.
so I'm encouraged that, but you're good to be diligent, because as you can imagine, that there are others who are not. I had a meeting last night that I had a board that wasn't happy with a lot of the strikeouts. They wanted it the other way. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
So just in my last words, I think we're all kind of on the same page in this meeting, and I really thank Alicia and Jess for, for speaking out, and I think you agree. But please be there, do the work, make sure it's good.
Remember, it's the first Monday of every month typically, but you can also reach out to my office to find, it will be warned, it shows up on our website, in our calendar when it is. Like, there was supposed to be one the first Monday in October and it got canceled. There wasn't enough to hold a quorum. So,
Okay.
so I think for sure the November meeting will happen because of October did, but again, none of this will be on the, well, I shouldn't say for sure it wouldn't be, if some boards don't want it and they've pushed it back, it could be on the agenda. But the agenda typically will get published the Friday before that meeting.
Just got to keep an eye out for it and be diligent.
So that's, you can get that through the
It'll be on the
board
website.
documents.
Yes, board on the website or on
or on just on the calendar
Yeah.
from the notice of the meeting. All right. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you. I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Ray, I know your name in the conference room, but can you please remind me of the other person's name in there? Sorry.
Sorry.
The other person in the conference room that's not Ray.
Jim
Jim
Culkeen.
Culkeen. I'm the superintendent.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you. I can like barely see you.
That's by design. I look better from the distance.
Thank you guys so much. And Ray, thank you so much for your support because he
Yeah.
gave me so much help. So I really appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank
Yeah, I did explain this process to her, so you
It's-
reinforced what I said, Jim. so
Yeah, it's
good.
not being part of a board right now, it's all a lot. So it's hard to follow everything.
Yeah. It's
Thank you,
got
guys.
steps. All right, so call the question. All in favor of
Aye.
warning this policy 65080 dress code? Aye for me.
I
Aye.
All right. So we've done that, and let me get back to the agenda. Done the policies. Now we're to the superintendent's report.
Not too much tonight. I don't have this electronically. I'll send it to Ray. One of the projects that we have been working on is a snapshot of our school district. So I'll just have to read it to you. I don't have it electronically. The idea came from a series of meetings at the SU level about what the SU really looks like and what's the economic impact of the supervisory union. So I'll just read it. Our pre-K through 12 enrollment is 2,980 students. The annual operating cost, and this is an eye opener, of the SVSU is $94 million. That's our operating budget. 85 million of that comes from the total budgets of all the districts and 8.7 million in annual grants. So those grants combined with the budget money is the 94 million operating. In the past 2 years and the year going forward, we've also been, and think of the burden that this places on our financial operations. The SVSU has been awarded an additional $28 million in one-time COVID-related grants. The SVSU Finance Office handles nearly 5,000 purchase recs every year. The SVSU the member districts own 16 buildings, 240 acres, 2 leased buildings by the SVSU, and a total square footage of all buildings of well over 1 million square feet. And it goes on. Human resources, the SVSU has a total of 976 employees. This includes 764 full-time employees, 48 part-time, 164 per diem. The biweekly payroll that the SVSU puts out of the economy here is $1.6 million. 691 students are provided services through the SVSU Student Services. some of these numbers are just, for me, staggering. I knew that I
should
ran a
mention what
large
student services means.
special education, what you would have formerly called special education, yeah. So we refer to it as student support services.
Right.
Try not to put labels on it. And so this project took a while. I want to thank Katie West for our public information coordinator for a lot of her work. I put her through a lot of different revisions. This has a published date on it because things will change as we put other additions, but this is for board members at budget time or anybody that's interested that can have this one-page snapshot of what our district looks like. And for me, as I said, to say, I knew it was a large organization, but I know the toll of working it, but just when you add it all up and put it on one sheet, it really is an eye-opener. Now, I don't know, because I've been, Laura and I have been alternating coming to your meetings so she's up in Arlington tonight, I'm here. So I don't know if you got these at the previous meeting, the speaker series and our new employee handbook.
We got the handbook.
You got the employee.
I don't recall the speakers.
All right, we've had one speaker already, the October, but the September of the next one is October 19th. And I'll share this with Ray. This is the third year that we have done a speaker series. This one is really everything about the SVSU that you need to know. So that's the theme of this one. We are in budget meetings with all our principals. It doesn't, impact you, but it will when the SU puts their budget together. Because that process is well underway. Challenges that we're looking at, we are in. We begin negotiations with both teachers and support staff next week. That really will be to set dates for future meetings. Arlington settled with their teachers and support staff, and they received a 7% increase this year and a 6% increase next year. And now we're entering into negotiations with the majority of our staff. So the other challenge that we're having in budgets, there's all SVSU wide, there's 21 positions that are paid for by federal funds under ESSER, which will go away at the end of this year. And how do we incorporate those into our operations? Because some of these positions are family engagement specialists, behavior specialists, are critical to the operations of our schools and connecting with our families. So we have a subgroup meeting on how that can get incorporated, particularly by looking at what open positions are in the budget right now. Positions are in the budget but not filled right now for various reasons, mainly because we can't find people for certain positions. Could that be shifted to other critical need areas? So budgets, negotiations, evaporating federal funds, those are our challenges this year, along with the regular operating challenges.
The negotiations are public, right?
They haven't decided if they will meet, and
Okay.
we meet and they can both decide whether they are going to do it privately or not.
They would decide then where they're going to.
Yeah.
Yes.
The past 3 rounds have been,
Yeah.
but previously they weren't.
Yep. And I don't know, but I have a favorable impression of them being public. So.
Yeah.
Seems to
I don't think there's any objection to
Moderate.
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Moderate the dialogue. All right. Thank you very much. I'm interested in that total figure of 94 million. And I didn't, of course, Arlington, I don't know what percentage they make up of that, but it's not a huge percentage because they're not big. But it's a lot of money.
And part of it was, and Scott McInerney was one of the impetuses for having this done, as that the SVSU doesn't really get a recognition in Bennington County for one, the size of an employer that it is, what its budget is, what its economic impact is. So that was one of the reasons behind putting it all in one spot.
Well, for a long time, it was difficult to get a number of employees.
Yes,
Now we have a number.
yeah, we have a number. I mean, when I pushed HR for it, they go, well, do you want the number today? Or do you want the number that includes all the open positions, or actually how many people are on the payroll? And then, I'd ask Renee, what's our total budget? Well, with grants or without grants, and whose budget are you talking about? No, all the budgets together. We asked some questions that haven't been asked before, so.
Yeah. Well, some years ago, there was a guy who made it his personal crusade to find out that number. It never really happened. But
Was
now
that
we have
you
it.
or?
No, it wasn't me.
Oh,
No, it was a guy from Pownell.
Yeah.
And it has happened finally, and that's a good thing. I think. All right, so we're to the chair's report, and current business there is basically the just briefly going through, what did I do here? Screen. But going through the RFP for the ventilation project for the building. And I sent everybody a copy of the RFP as written and now published in the newspaper, I believe. So that gives us a timeline. And it specifies a contact point, which is Derek Siegler, Rush Meadow Consulting, who's did the work on the plans and specifications. And specifies a person to whom bids may be given, Terrence Marr at the Village School of North Bennington. Specifies the dates on which, by which they need to be presented, October 31st at noon, and provides a date for interested parties to inspect the work, the project. And that's the 7th, what time is it? 24th, is it? 17th of October, a short date, starting at 11 a.m. And that would be, of course, at the North Bennington Graded School facility that the village school occupies. Then I also shipped you the actual drawings, and the specifications are actually part of the drawings. At the end, there are considerable additional material that specifies various elements of the system, which are identified in the drawings. And that's the whole package for the contractors to bid upon. I'm not going to comment on that because I don't have any competence to do that. Yeah, Derek Siegler would be the person to talk to, and Terrence Marr at the Village School. Hopefully we will see some bids. Holly Anderson has I said she would make some attempts to scare up contractors to take an interest in it, and that's where we are. I don't think there's much else to be said, but welcome comments. Maybe, is Tim still here? Maybe Tim has a comment today.
No, I think you've covered it, Ray. The only thing I would add is I've also publicized it on the Vermont Business to Business website that does all the requests for proposals throughout the state. So hopefully it widens our search.
Okay.
Ray, it's probably my problem, but I did get the the original document, but I don't know that I got the other stuff, the drawings and whatnot.
Um,
And like you say, it's not, I'm not one to really analyze it. I just kind of want to see
I'll
what
send
you're
it to
doing.
you again, but not at this moment.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't think it interferes with our conduct of this meeting, but I did want to put that out there. I don't know if it'll impact anybody in the public who might have an interest in looking at the project and bidding it. But thought it ought to be in the public domain since I worked to get it before the public by getting us to approve the kind of work that's going to happen to the building itself in order to get this done. If we can get contractors to take, to get it done in the time frame that's by law, it's got to meet, which is by September of 24, right?
September 30th to 24th.
September 30th.
Well, it's got to be expended, which means you're probably going to have it done. You can bill it out by the 1st.
Doesn't mean actually paid, just invoices in hand, perhaps. You don't. You don't
I do
know.
not want to go on record saying that.
Okay, right. And, it's, I don't know if there are any possibilities of extension of that.
There is something about like how long, I think we may actually have a few months after this, after actually to pay it, but it's got to be no work or invoices submitted with any date after the 30th.
30th,
I
okay.
think we just like, figure how we close out our books here, the year ends July
Right.
1, but there's August, something early September, there's still.
And
still-
in fact, this work can't proceed during the school year.
Yeah.
So it's got to be done in summer before and virtually complete by the time classes start again. Okay. I don't have an other, but I did want to, I do have pretty much the full census. I sent, let me look up my, yeah. So I produced a document which I sent out to you all today because I didn't have all the figures until today. I misspelled Prudential in it, I'm sorry. But it gives you a chart with census figures for FY24. And I didn't proofread this very well because I say FY14 and it's 24. But pre-K numbers, pre-K 3-year-olds, there are a total of 13 in our district, 2 of whom are in, there's a triple E component of 2 students. In pre-K 4-year-olds, we have 2 students in triple E or double E as it's put here, and 13 other additional students for a total of 15. So that's 28 pre-K students. K-6 independent schools, we have 121 students. And in the public schools, in the SVSU, which includes Shaftesbury, Molly Stark, Fisher, and Arlington, there are 23 students. So that's a total ADM of 172, which is roughly what we had last year. It may be 3 or 4 different in that total. And so in terms of our budget, I think we're doing pretty well, and I think in terms of next year's budget, we should have similar equalized pupil counts to what we've been carrying. I don't think they'll increase, they may slide a little bit, but and I don't really have anything else to say at this point in time. I'd welcome any comments from board members, or Tim wants to say something.
I don't think I have anything to add, Ray. I think that covers it pretty much.
Yeah. And so without anything else to say, I guess we should adjourn. So,
I have one question for Jim.
sure.
Jim, the list that you read off, and I think you called it an SVSU snapshot. Did you say that that was something to be distributed? I
We're
just
not
find it,
distributing it can be, we're giving it to boards, but you know, I can send it to you.
I just thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, we didn't print up 10,000 of them and handing them out type thing, you know, we printed up, I don't know how many we did, but yeah, it's not intended to be hidden, it's intended to be shared.
Do you think there's an electronic version could be distributed?
I can ask Katie if she has it electronically. I mean, I know it went to the printer that way, but yeah.
I could get it to Lori and to Tim that
Well,
way.
I can,
And
we have
my-
electronic, Amy can send it out to everybody who's on the distribution
Okay.
list, yeah.
Right.
thank
All
you.
right, so if we're agreeable, let's see about
So moved.
closing this meeting. Second, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.